Okay, welcome back to the Limitless Women podcast. I'm really excited to share with you a dear friend that I recently reconnected with. Shellee Howard is the founder of College Ready, and she has an amazing story for us today of her journey, of how she became an entrepreneur, what she's done. She and I became friends years ago, so I've got a little bit of perspective from like the before and after. She's on fire now. You'll see her all over the press, the media, and she was just on David John's show. I'm not sure exactly. She'll tell us like, how that all went down, but then she's just won an award. You know, things are on fire for you. And I'm so thrilled to have you here and celebrate your success today, Shellee. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Laura. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, so good to see you too, honey. Actually, good to see you. We talked on the phone, but it's really nice to actually see your beautiful face. All right, tell us a little bit about how College Ready started. I think there's a really amazing story about your own journey as a mama and what was happening for you and for your family. And, let's just get us up to speed with what is College Ready and how did you get into the journey of entrepreneurship?
So good. Happy to share. So, first and foremost, I am the daughter of two entrepreneurs. I think that's
Mm.
super important to set that tone because people are like, wow, you just think outside the box. I started my first business at 12. I
Wow.
really, really love money when it came to the more I made, the more I could give. And it
Yeah.
felt great. And
Nice.
so College Ready was my seventh business I started. And it all happened because the iPhone came out. And at the time, I was a professional photographer. And I saw
Mm.
the writing on the wall, and I'm like, whoa, this is going to change things. And at the same time, my firstborn was preparing for college. And so I was working full time, and then I would come home and I would learn everything I could about college admissions. I still felt like I needed more. So I went back to school and I got my master's, and I went back to school and I became a certified independent college strategist.
Cool.
And then it was time for my firstborn to launch. He went to Harvard, graduated in 4 years, pre-med, and he did it without me paying a dime, and he's debt
So
free.
cool.
So
So
that's
cool.
how College Ready started. So
Yeah.
it was another opportunity that the hard work paid off. And now everybody asks me, can you help my child? And so that's how College Ready was launched.
Yeah, so cool. And so what did you do? And I know this is like probably can't give us all the details in one show, but kind of give us an idea of like how you knew what you knew. It sounds like you went and got the education to learn what you needed to learn to really be able to do this well. And as I know you, you do everything well. That's how you are. You're very committed. Um, what did you do that had your son graduate debt free?
So starting with the first part of it is, what did I do? There was nobody that was any help to us when we were navigating. I would have loved to pay myself back then, to be honest
Yeah,
with you. The amount of work I put into preparing, I would have so much rather paid somebody, but there
sure.
wasn't anybody. And the high school counselor was just too busy to
Yeah.
be helpful. So it did fall on my shoulders, and I did take it seriously. My son asked for my help, and he had big hopes and dreams. He wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, actually a brain surgeon, and it changed to orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
But so he had big hopes and dreams. So
Yeah.
hopefully, as a listener, you're like, oh, yes, I understand the pressure that must feel. And so what I ended up doing is I was doing both. I was a professional photographer, and then I was also on my free time helping families. And what I realized is I loved it. That's what
Interesting.
I realized is I speak teenager. I love to inspire. I
Nice.
love to provide impact. And so it was just a really nice way for me to transition out of one and into another. And so it never really was, I'm going to quit my job and start this thing. It was, I'm going to transition out of what was paying me, and I'm going to transition into what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was very successful at it, and it spread like wildfire.
So
So
cool.
the second question is how we did it is I ran my son's platform as a business. So the first
Okay.
thing I did is I was like, college is a business,
Okay.
and I reverse engineered it. So I was thinking, if my son wants to be a surgeon, what do awesome surgeons do? Where do they go to school? What kind of internships? What kind of research? What kind of community service? And I reverse engineered the whole process.
Smart, smart. So it's like you identified the identity of that role and that person that he wanted to grow into being, and then you looked at all the distinctions and thought, how do we actually put him on that path?
Absolutely. And
So
then
cool.
we went into LinkedIn and we actually saw the path. This is where
Brilliant.
this doctor started. This is who they talked to. This is what they
Mhm.
did. And all of a sudden, it started really lining up. And I was
Yeah,
like, this is it. This is the business plan, the
right.
business model to get him where he wants to go. And then
Excellent.
I've been doing that 18 years for all of the other students through my program.
Yeah, super cool. And I think it's interesting because there's such a lesson in that already, just in the first 5 minutes, Shelley, of, what does it take to actually step into the identity of your vision, right? Like you have the vision, you have the idea, this is where I want to go, but what are the steps that you're actually going to take? And I think it's, a lot of the work that we do with folks now is in the foundations, right? Like going back, often people will be in business for a long time and they haven't hit their goals, they haven't hit their revenue, they haven't hit, the impact that they want to create in their life and with their business. And so we go back often and say, okay, well, did you build on the sand? Are you on shaky foundation, right? Did you actually go and build the foundation for the dream that you have here, right? Like, so there's a lot of that foundation that has to be in place before you can lead to flow. So I love that it's so applicable in so many ways. And I think we could talk for hours about all the ways that being an entrepreneur is different in the world, right? Like how we see things differently, how we problem solve differently. I did not realize that this was your seventh business. I had somehow missed that in all the years that we've known each other. But it is interesting. It's interesting how we're wired differently as entrepreneurs, right? We're wired differently to see things in a different way. So tell me a little bit about the award that you just won. Speaking of being unique and seeing things differently, let me celebrate that with you.
Absolutely. So last year was a really wonderful year. It was my best financial year at College Ready. And so
Congratulations.
that alone was just, I had met my financial goal and it was wild. It's like, okay, now what? Right? As an entrepreneur, you don't go,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I'm good. We don't have to. It's like, okay,
Wow.
what's my next big audacious
Right.
goal
Right.
and how
Right.
we hit that? And at the same time, I was being approached by people and I was nominated for the 2026 Global Educational Consultant of the Year. I have students inside and outside the US. And so I never really thought much about it. Somebody, I still don't know who it was
Mhm.
anonymous. And I get this information. Of course, I thought it was not legit. And so I did all my research.
Right.
They
What
could
is
have
it? Yeah.
possibly have wanted
Who
me.
are these people? Yeah.
And
Yeah. Really what?
I went through 3 interviews and I had to write a founder story. And
Cool.
it turns out that I won the award. And in order
Wow.
to accept the award, I had to fly to the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I've always wanted to go to the Philippines.
Oh,
And it just
cool.
happened to be my 100th country.
Wow.
So it was just such an epic moment. I got to walk down the red carpet, wear the gown, get the trophy,
So
and just
beautiful.
be celebrated. And it felt so surreal. My husband just watching with such pride, my kids cheering me on. And
So
it was
beautiful.
like a reality. What I found out is a big part of why I received the award is because I have an international nonprofit. And
Yes,
I never
let's go there.
thought that that was going to be such a big part of my story.
Yeah.
And I was in Africa when I decided all of this was going to happen, my fourth time in Africa. And so that award meant so much more because it really was a culmination of not only the work I do with the students, but also the things that I care deeply about and how I'm making impact and how I'm joining my students making impact with my school in Uganda. So it was like this
So cool.
big package that
Yeah.
was delivered and celebrated. And so That award is the Global Pioneer Award, and it had to do with the starting of my business, the starting of the nonprofit, and the success of both.
Congratulations, sweetheart. That's really, really, really beautiful. And I think about, when I met you, and this was really more in its infancy. And I remember how much I always, when I refer back and tell people about your story, one of the things that I was so impressed with back then that I'm still impressed with today is your willingness to do the work, Shellee. I remember talking to you and you were going out and people were like, oh, I don't feel like networking, or I'm going to go to one thing a month. Da, da, da. You were out there 4 days a week. You had leads groups. You were in every chamber. And I was like, this woman is on fire. She's going to do what she says she's going to do. You had a revenue goal. You're like, I'm going to hit it. You were hired your first team member, assistant / business manager today, Michelle. It was like you were just getting started. And I look at, again, how far you've come in such a short period of time. And I really want to hear more about the nonprofit work. But what inspires you? As I think about your discipline and how you stay on track, I want to hear the story of how you got inspired to do the nonprofit work, but also what's that thing about you, Shellee, that has you really put your eye on the prize and put your head down and stay focused? What do you think that is for you?
Well, I think you kind of brought it up as I'm pretty tenacious.
Yeah.
When most people give up, I just keep going. And I really believe that comes from being a scholar athlete. I
Uh-huh.
played softball for the USA, and I was the smallest catcher that they had ever had.
Oh, sweet love.
And I didn't let that stop me. I
Yeah.
was fast, I was determined, and I learned very early that I fail forward. And I think a
Nice.
lot of times people are afraid to fail, and that's what stops them. I just lean into it. Again, both parents being entrepreneurs, it is a very
Uh-huh.
normal part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so I'm very tenacious. I'm very self-motivated. I don't need anybody holding me accountable.
Uh-huh.
And so those two things I think have served me well as
Very
I've
much so.
gone through this process.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Uganda. Let's talk about how that part of the journey inside the journey evolved with your nonprofit. Tell us that story.
So it is a beautiful story, and I'll give you the short version.
Sure.
The first time I went to Africa, it was to take my 17-year-old who really wanted to be a doctor. And I didn't know if it was for the DR, in front of the name, or really the desire to do the work. So I was
Uh-huh.
a mom on a mission. And so he gave me 2 weeks because he was so busy. And he said, I'll do anything. And so I took him to the slums of Mathare, which
Uh-huh.
is some of the worst in the third world country.
Yeah.
And we served together in a clinic, and it was hard.
Life changing.
It was life changing. It was really hard work. And there were many nights I heard him whimpering, and
Oh,
he was like, I just don't know, Mom, if I can do this kind of thing. And
right.
by
Right.
the end, he was changed forever.
Yeah.
The
It's
beauty
beautiful.
of that is he just finished orthopedic surgery as chief resident, and he just served in Ethiopia for 2 weeks as his give back.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
the impact that Africa has made on my family. So that was trip one. Trip two, I was asked to go with a friend to explore South Africa. It was lovely. Trip three, I was asked by 3 entrepreneurs to go with them and help women build businesses. And I was like, oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
20 days of helping women build businesses, I'm all
Uh-huh.
in.
Yeah.
And so we were angel investors. And so we all donated $50 per lady that we helped.
Yeah.
And we leaned in because their husbands were killed or, are not part of the journey. And the
Sure.
women were left to raise the families. And so we did that for 20 days all over Africa. And on my
Yeah.
final day there, I was having lunch and I met a gentleman by the name of Yona. And I asked him, what do you do? And he says, I'm a women's advocate attorney. Really?
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
In Africa. Help me
Mm-hmm.
understand what that looks like. And he goes, well,
Right.
when a young girl becomes a woman, they're unclean and they can't be educated anymore. And I paused and I said, excuse me? Oh, well,
Yeah.
we didn't ask for that. I would
Right.
happily give that up. and you're
Yeah.
punishing these girls. And he says, it's
Right.
not me, it's the government.
Right.
And so I said, what can be done? He goes, we can start a school for these young ladies to live in and not be judged or governed by the government.
Uh-huh.
And I said, what does that look like? And he goes, it's going to cost 6,000 US dollars. And I said, where do I write the check?
Nice.
That was it. That's how it
That's
all
it.
got
You
started.
got started and here you are. And what year, how long ago was that?
We are now in our third year.
Great.
We've been in nonprofit for 1 year. The first 2 years, it was really getting comfortable with, are they doing what they say they're going to do? It's a trust.
Yeah, sure.
Let me tell you, we started with 50 kids. We're up to 950.
Nice. Good job, honey.
It's amazing.
So
And these
cool.
young girls are going to high school, and it's so
Yes.
cool. They're going off to college.
Yeah.
And now it's a student-led organization. So I now mentor my students to lead other teenagers to do
Beautiful.
the impact.
Yeah. So good. So, so good. And the ripple effect is huge. And, people who are in our community, again, predominantly women who are in our community and a few great men that support us as well. For many of us, the education around the idea that once a young woman starts menstruating, that's it. It's like that's the end. That's the end of your childhood. That's the end of your opportunity. And now your expectation at this point is that you're going to get married and you're going to have children, and that's the journey, right? There's no education. There's no more opportunity there for women. So if a family is struggling and has to decide between feeding their children or paying for education, often food has to become the first priority. If they're going to choose between educating a son or educating a daughter, they'll educate the son so that the son can then take care of the elders. And then if it's a piece of the piece that was such an eye-opener for me was the idea that sanitary pads and women having opportunities to even just have a way to keep themselves clean so they can stay in school and leave home was somehow a luxury. Right. I mean, that's one of those things that was such an eye opener for me as a woman growing up in the United States. I couldn't imagine that being able to just even have access to sanitation is, shame on me. I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. So
They
as
were
we've
using
learned more,
banana peels. They were
yeah.
using banana peels.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and there's lots of stories about the gravel, the leaves, the sitting on a pile, the different things. Monica Nurgawapwa, who's the founder of Girl Up Uganda, I just told you we were at a leadership camp with her in August of this past year, and I think the amount of courage and fierceness of these young girls, there's 300 girls there between the ages of 11 and 14, and I just thought about like, man, their courage, their compassion for each other, their fierceness is just really, again, it's an amazing opportunity to serve there. It really is. And so I'm so grateful that you're doing your work there. And again, that's the part of what we got this community all fired up about. It's like you do your piece, I do my piece, somebody else does their piece together collectively. That's how movements happen and how change can happen in the world. So thank you so much for your role in impacting lives and leading leaders. You get the power of that. Like, again, the long-term vision is not for them to be dependent on you, but for them to be independent and strong and fierce and be able to lead the next generation after we're gone. So pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. What's been the thing that you wish, we go back to your role as an entrepreneur, what's the thing that you wish you would have known then that you know now? If you went back in time, you say like, and this could be either what you wish you knew as a young woman or what you wish you knew when you started your business. Tell me what comes to mind when I ask you that question.
What comes to mind is being surrounded by like-minded entrepreneurs, women
Uh-huh.
who are actually walking this journey before you, with you. That is so powerful. I will
Uh-huh.
say I've grown the most in those arenas. The other thing is hiring. I will tell you, it was life-changing and I was terrified. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this person.
All right.
And now my COO is the one who was my part-time first assistant.
Yes. So good.
And she's been with me, oh my gosh, I think she's on 10 years. And
It's incredible.
she's amazing. And I couldn't do college ready without her. I tell
Yeah.
her all the time how much I appreciate her. And she was my first hire. And since then, I've hired 11. And
Nice.
so it's a way to really step out of being in it and being more of the visionary. And you
Uh-huh.
can create so much more when you're not in it and you are in the visionary role. So I would encourage, even if you don't think you can do it, it's
Hire
so
sooner.
so powerful. So I
Yeah.
would have hired sooner is the bottom
Yeah.
line.
Well, and I think speaking of the sooner thing, it was a cute thing that I was also thinking about preparing for today. One of the things that you said to me, and this is another funny Shelley story in my mind, is that when you joined Legacy Leaders, when you started working with me and working with our community, one of the things you said to me is you had come to an event a few years earlier and the price had gone up. And you're like, oh, I better hurry up and sign up now before it goes up again. I think that that's the piece too. Like there's no time like the present to invest in yourself. And for me, I think the idea is like I want to find the people who are doing what I want to do and get in partnership and surround myself with other people who are growing and leading and being on fire versus I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. I think that that's a way to atrophy. And when you're talking about bringing on Michelle, it's Michelle, right?
Mhm.
Talking about bringing on Michelle, I remember that conversation of hiring her and like how am I going to pay for her? What I think you might know today that you didn't know then, at least from my perspective, is that great team members not only pay for themselves, but they are like the lifeblood. They're the human asset of the organization because as founders, we are founders. We are not the business, right? Our role, as you said, is to stay in the visionary lane, to keep holding the expansion of what's possible for everyone else. But then the people who get to execute on delivering the promise of the brand, we talk so much about our clients and our students and our patients and that as a group of people, but the people who are part of our team also get to live their experience, right? So it's one of these blessings being an employer. It's one of the reasons the government gives us the benefits that it does for us with tax deductions. I was just working with a couple yesterday about their tax deductions. I think this whole idea of like that's a whole nother thing to build an organization that provides an opportunity for amazing people to live their vision through the work. So I love that Michelle's still with you all these years later and growing and you're COO now. And yeah, what's the future hold for you? What are you looking forward to?
Wow, that's one area that we're working on the vision for.
Yeah.
We always are looking 3 years ahead,
Mhm.
and AI is just a huge part of that now. And
Yes.
like everybody else, it's coming quicker than we anticipated, how
Sure.
fast and all of that. So we knew it was coming. Like I've been in the lane of it's here, it's
Right,
from
right, right.
from an
Used it.
entrepreneur's point, but not as a student point. Like,
Mhm.
can they use it to write their essays, to apply
Yeah.
with? What? Like, all of this is like some new stuff. And so, my podcast, Parents Is Your Teen College Ready, I'm interviewing a lot of faculty and how they're addressing it at the
Excellent.
university level.
Excellent.
So we're trying to help families. And so why does that impact College Ready? Is we
Mhm.
want to be cutting edge. We want to be that consulting firm that I can tell students right now, here are the top 100 jobs on the chop block. I
Mhm.
want you to
Yeah.
know, don't go spend 4 years in that degree if you're going
Right.
to graduate and it's not going to be there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge. And so we're having to step into that and pivot. Even though
Mhm.
I had vision, our vision is now having to embrace that part of it and
Yeah.
help kids understand communication, collaboration, speech, all of those things. You can no longer just be a good student.
Right.
You now
Right.
have to be able to have intellectual curiosity. You can write prompts,
Mhm.
you can guide people, you can
Yeah.
collaborate with all of your company. And that is the vision of how are we going to set these kids up for success.
I love
And
that.
so we've added a uh, career exploration as
Okay.
part of College Ready because
Nice.
we
Tell
want
us
them
more
to,
about that.
yeah, so it's called See Our Future Now. And
Uh-huh.
what we're doing is we're helping students first get financially literate, which
Great.
we didn't realize how bad it was. And
Uh-huh.
then once we can get them vision of, do they want to go into debt? Let's
Right.
talk about this. Do
What does
they
that look
just
like?
want not to? What does it look like? Do
Uh-huh.
they want to be an influencer? Where's their business plan? Like, we're
Uh-huh.
bringing the reality of what this generation is dealing with, and we're saying,
Uh-huh.
let's hit it head on. Let's
Nice.
talk about your core values, your gifts, your strengths, your advocacy, and what
Uh-huh.
lines up for you. Gone are the days that you could be undeclared, undecided. You are
Right,
now
right.
forced to choose when you are just in your teens.
Uh-huh.
And so, if we allow them to have this knowledge and understand the value of time, the value of money, the value of an education, what does that look like? We
Uh-huh.
are launching students who are not going into debt. They are
Right.
understanding what major they want and how to stick with it. And their acceptance rates are soaring. Their
Nice.
scholarships are huge.
Nice.
So in 18 years, our students have received $80 million in scholarships.
Good job, honey.
It's
Congratulations.
impactful,
That's huge. Huge. And again, the ripple effect of that is so much more than even we can count, right?
for sure.
So, so cool. It goes back, I think, this is kind of a full circle for me, Shellee, in this conversation of, how an entrepreneur thinks differently. And so if you are not familiar with how the education system was, not you, but whoever's listening to this, if you're not familiar with how the education system was originally created, it was designed, the education that we kind of know as traditional education was really catered to create soldiers and create factory workers, right? This is old paradigms, which is like memorization and rote and spitting it back out. It wasn't designed to create creative thinkers. In fact, often in our traditional school system, you were penalized for being a person who is an outlier or thinking differently, right? You know how many successful founders have dropped out, right? I was just watching the dropout. So it's an interesting piece. When you are wired for entrepreneurship, which it sounds like you are, you think differently, you act differently, but that's not the majority of humans, right? It's a small, small percentage. So it's interesting having this conversation with you, looking at where none of us really knows what God's plan is. It's kind of all unfolding. We say in our world, we're grateful to have God as our CEO and AI as our amplifier. And I think we're also on a need to know basis, right? Our job is to work on our capacity, to work on our presence, to work on our awareness and partnership with God. So as this evolution is happening for humanity, I love that you are in the business of empowering students with a way different way of thinking than their traditional education.
Absolutely. And it's going to serve them well because that's the
For
future
life.
for
Yeah,
life.
for
This
life.
this generation's going to switch careers every 2 to 3 years.
Mm.
You can't prepare them for war and prepare them for switching careers every 2 to 3 years the
No,
same
it's a
way.
different world. Yeah, it's a different world for sure. Well, and I think about the people that I know that who've really, when I think about my friends who I really admire and respect, who I believe are truly successful, meaning that they are spiritually well, that they are physically well, that they have time freedom, that they have financial sufficiency. I think about these people. They often are people like you and I who beat to their own drum. So it's not a new conversation, but it is very much a small sliver of the population. And I think at Limitless Women, what I've heard again and again over the last decade plus is this next generation of leaders calling and saying, help us, give us that wisdom that you've learned from being in the trenches so that this journey can be a little easier. So I just am so grateful to you for doing what you're doing locally and globally to impact women and girls and boys and men and everybody that you're touching. We really, really appreciate you using your leadership skills and your superpowers to impact lives.
Thank you so much. I find my joy comes from inspiration and impact. And so I encourage any listener to really get clear on what is your joy?
Yeah.
What is the impact you want to make? And if you're doing both of those, you are really living your best life. I encourage you to think, don't give up on that. That's areas that I've had to struggle with in seasons where it's like, this is no longer aligning with me. What do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And listen to that, because that stirring inside of you is the one thing that's kept me. Tell people I'm unemployable. I I love what I do. I love my boss. I love my life, and that's because I get to inspire people and have the impact that I want to leave.
Yeah, so beautiful, sweetie. All right, so we've got lots of places for people to connect with you. Besides collegeready.com, you've got 2 best-selling books. I feel like there's more that you have to share as you keep evolving in your own leadership, and so I'm hoping we'll get you out to speak at a conference soon. If you can fit us in, I'd be like, "Where are you in the world today?" when I'm texting you. "Oh, I'm in the Philippines." I'm like, "Wow, great. How cool is that?" So we'll get you here so you can be with us in person. Anything else, any parting words you'd like to share? We want to make sure that we get all the links and share those with everybody. But tell me, where can people go to learn more about you and anything that you want to wrap up with?
So if it applies to yourself and you're listening, just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about failing. Just do it. Because
Oh,
if you don't do it, you'll never know. That's the one thing I've learned with all of my years of wisdom. If you have a child, a teenager who is struggling with who they are, what matters to them, what impact they want to make, there is help. Do not just shrug and go, oh, they're just young. If they
yeah.
don't figure it out, that plan will cost them time and money.
Oh,
And that is the area that you can't give them back. So I
right.
encourage you, for yourself, go, and for them, go. Don't wait for it to land in your lap. Step into it. And that's what I want to encourage you to do.
Beautiful. And so how can we stay connected with you?
Sure. So the best way to reach me is through my website, which is collegereadyplan.com. And for your listeners who do have teenagers or grandkids or whomever they want to,
Whoever. Yeah.
right? Whomever they see fit, I'm gifting a 30-minute discovery call to see if they are future ready. And that's collegereadyplan.info. My
Okay,
2
great.
best-selling books are on Amazon. They're at $4 right now for your listeners.
Woo-hoo.
I used to
Nice.
give them away and nobody would do free. $4, they'd blow off the shelf. Again,
Nice.
no figure. And, and
Absolutely.
and really, my podcast, Parents Is Your Teen College Ready, is where I bring in the whole village. So if you need anybody in that arena, I encourage you to listen. So thank you,
Great.
Laura, for having me.
Yeah, such a pleasure, my dear. I really appreciate you and appreciate everything you're doing to help so many.
Are you a limitless woman? This is your personal invitation to learn how you can join our online community, grow through our business school, and play with us at our live events. Go to limitlesswomen.com for all the details. That's limitlesswomen.com. Thanks for joining us.